Hi, this is your 5-minute geography lesson. We're covering Theme 2, Element 7, Ageing Population. Share your ideas with a partner. I'm Mr. S. I'll be your 5-minute teacher. Many developed countries, HICs, are experiencing an ageing population. This is where we have a low birth rate and a low death rate, creating an increased life expectancy, so people are living for longer, and then this means that the median age of the population is increasing. This can bring opportunities and challenges for countries. Countries such as Japan, UK, France and Germany have an ageing population due to the high levels of their development. People are living for longer because they have more access to wealth, they have better, more varied and reliable diets, and access to improved medical care. Now, before we move on, I do want to mention one thing. Now, particularly in Western cultures, an ageing population, the elderly, aren't seen in a very favourable light. They tend to be marginalised, so not thought of as much. They also have quite a negative connotation, so people think of them as perhaps useless to society because they've served their purpose, they've reached an age where they're not contributing to the economy, and therefore we shouldn't consider them anymore. It's not always the same in cultures. Asian cultures tend to venerate, so lord over their older generation and try and help them. So that's kind of what this diagram's showing here, where you've got the working age supporting the elderly. But a lot of Western cultures, particularly a case in the UK, see it more as a negative as we get older, and that does need to change. And I am recording this during the COVID-19 crisis, and I do think that this is something that has been highlighted, what the elderly generation are actually doing for the country when we don't actually have access to them. So at the minute, people over the age of 70 have to self-isolate, and actually it's these grandparents that are providing that are providing childcare for some of our families so they can go out to work, and they're missing that at the minute. So I do think that this crisis has shown us just how important our older generation are to our country, and that's something as a mindset I think needs to change. So let's start out by actually looking at what the opportunities of an ageing population are. Well, people are living for longer and they're living healthier lifestyles, or living healthier lives. And that will ultimately mean that you yourself will get to live for longer and enjoy a healthier life. Older populations tend to have solid traditional views and moral values. And as we've mentioned, the elderly or the older generation tend to play crucial roles in childcare for family members. And while they're looking after those children while the parents are at work, they'll be instilling and modelling those traditional, those solid moral values and setting a good example for those younger generations. Some older people do choose to continue working after retirement. Some people do it because they have to, because they need to earn a bit more money. A lot of people do it because they feel like they're helping to contribute to society and providing for the local area and the local economy. They also help to pass on those skills that they've built up across a varied and long life. The wealth of experience which an older person has collected that a younger person does not have access to because they haven't had as much life experience. Some retired people have a disposable income, so they get a pension each week. They may have already paid off the house, the mortgage, and they've got more money that they can spend on other things and leisure activities in shops. So they're helping to prop up the economy, and this is also called the Great Pound informally. And then finally, a lot of retired people choose to volunteer, so don't take money for their services and just help out in the local area. It could be down at the local community centre, the local food bank. They could be doing that informal childcare arrangement for people as well. And that all provides a boost for the local economy because they're doing that service for free, and it's also helping out in terms of the social element inside that community. Now, there are challenges associated with an ageing population, but they can be well managed. So an older population does put strain on the healthcare because as we get older, we tend to become more frail and more susceptible to illness, disease, and degenerative conditions such as eyesight and hearing loss. Pensioners do not work for the most part, which contributes to a shrinking workforce. So if we've got more older people, more retired people, we're probably going to have fewer people in the workplace earning a wage and therefore paying taxes. And therefore the tax base is going to reduce, which ultimately means that the government doesn't have as much money to spend on improvements for the country. Older people are more likely to get ill, as we've mentioned, so surgeries and hospitals may have to adapt to be more accessible, open for longer hours, put more sessions on, or be available to come out to the person's home if they're not able to get out. And that's going to cost the NHS millions and millions. And they have to start thinking about new ways of arranging that. So as we get older, we're more likely to get illnesses like dementia. And traditional care is not going to support somebody who has dementia. You can't go to hospital and stay in hospital because of dementia. You need to go into specialist care. And at the minute, we're not really set up to do that properly. And then pensions have to be paid for longer, so it takes more money out of the economy. So 50 years ago, you get your pension if you were a man at the age of 65 and 60 for a woman. And you get that paid until you died. Now, 50 years ago, people didn't live as long as they do now. So the government today has to pay that money for longer because people are living for longer. And that's a problem for the government because that pot of money isn't getting bigger, it's getting smaller because not as many people are working now. So what they've had to do is start thinking about how they're going to reduce the time they have to pay that money. So they've increased the retirement age for both men and women to 67 at the minute, but more than likely that'll probably go up again before the likes of you or me end up retiring. Well, that's it for today. We'll continue your revision by completing the now try tasks for homework. Class dismissed.